Hey everyone, it's Lulasai. I'm here with a review for The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is a 1974 movie directed by Tobe Hooper, and it is one of my favorites. This is actually only my second, maybe third time watching it. This has instantly become one of my favorite horror movies, and I will obviously tell you why. But yeah, I mean, I would go as far as saying this might be better than Halloween. It's pretty close. I think this might be better. And this came out 4 years before Halloween as well, so. Yeah, I do think Halloween is the more popular franchise, obviously, though, but yeah. And before I forget, I also wanted to mention that this movie is so influential and important that it's arguably the reason, or one of the reasons, why horror movies are being made the way they are today. Movies like Obsession, which I haven't seen yet, but I've heard really good things about, where you go for these low-budget, high-grossing films at the box office. This is one of the first, if not the very first, to do it. This film had a budget of around $100,000 USD, and it grossed over 30 million. So, yeah, that's a huge profit. So this movie is the definition of a success, and even with a low budget, it is proof that with enough talent and creativity, you can make anything happen. You don't have to have some huge studio behind you or have all access to everything that you possibly need, because you could just make whatever you need, apparently. I mean, I don't know if I could make this movie for $100,000, but yeah, they did, and they did it really well. I felt like there's no compromises. It didn't feel cheap. It didn't, I mean, it technically is a B movie, but it did not feel like a B movie. This felt like an A movie, which I don't really think is something anyone says, but yeah, I have nothing but praise to give to this. Oh yeah, sorry, one more thing before I go into the plot, because this is another thing I'm worried about forgetting. I should mention, this is not going to count against the score of the film whatsoever, but I should mention that this was my first time watching the 4K version, and I mean, I love this steelbook, don't get me wrong, but if you've watched this movie, you know where I'm going with this, right? So, if you watch the 4K version of this movie, it's arguably a little bit of a downgrade, because the original cut for this movie is so grainy, and that is one of the most distinguishing features of it, is how grainy and uncomfortable how it looks, just the way it visually looks. I mean, there's like flashing of the lights. I don't know how to explain it. It's like the scenes are almost changing temperature in real time, and that's one thing, but you're missing the graininess to this. I guess it's still there a little bit, but not nearly as much as if you watch this on VHS or DVD, I guarantee you. Okay, so the plot is very simple. You can imagine where this movie takes place. We are in Texas, and we follow Sally and her friends who are on a road trip. The film begins by them being kind enough, or rather stupid enough, I guess, or both things are true, to pick up this hitchhiker. This is not no ordinary hitchhiker either. I've played the games, by the way. I've played Dead by Daylight. I've played the actual Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game. This is not no ordinary hitchhiker. This is the hitchhiker. So that's why this was fun to rewatch, because I had so much more context when looking at this particular scene. But anyway, so at first they're like, okay, he looks weird, but let's give him a chance. So they pick him up, and it turns out he's completely deranged, and he ends up slashing one of the friends, and before he gets kicked out, and they drive off. So that leaves them pretty startled, but honestly not startled enough. I would be even more startled if I were them. I mean, that knife could have had, who knows what infections that thing had on it. But yeah, the friend seems to be miraculously fine, so we move on, and now the group needs to get gasoline because they're running low. But the only gas station near them is waiting on a delivery, and so they're forced to very conveniently go stay at a nearby house, which just so happens to be owned by one of the friends' grandfather. But this is stuff I can forgive. Like, I'm just being a nerd right now for fun, for the sake of the review. I don't actually care about this kind of stuff, just for the record. But yeah, so very conveniently they go to this house. It's abandoned, very dusty, doesn't look like a fun place to stay. And this is where things kind of escalate once the group starts splitting off in different directions. And eventually there is a human face wearing madman named Leatherface who wields a chainsaw and No disrespect to anyone watching this if you have this, but it does kind of seem like he has Down syndrome. I haven't watched this entire series, so I want to see if I'm right about that later on. And he's homicidal. But it's not just him, he also has an entire family with him. So there's an entire homicidal family that this group has to try and survive from. So that's the basic premise. But really, I just told you the whole story, so I wouldn't really call it spoilers, though, because what do you expect? This is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, after all. So, let's start with negatives. We discussed the whole 4K versus VHS quality thing. Not going to count against the movie. I mean, I just happened to watch 4K this time. I'm not going to count. That would just be ridiculous to count that against the score. So that's just more something, a recommendation for you. You don't necessarily have to get 4K. If you want a great collection piece, then this looks great. But if you're looking for, like, the best viewing experience, maybe you should consider a DVD. It's probably cheaper as well. Are there any that, I mean, I've talked about some of the nerd things that I pointed out. Again, I don't really care about those. I will say the non-family member characters aren't outstanding. Sally, Franklin, Pam, and I forget the other guy. They're serviceable, but that's the thing. I'm glad they're just serviceable because I don't want to have some backstory to feel sympathetic about them. It's just not necessary, right? They are simply lambs to the slaughter. That's the whole point of the movie. They serve their purpose, and that's good enough for me. In fact, they might be stupid, but they're not actively annoying. So that's another thing. A lot of horror movies, especially the victim characters, they're often, for whatever reason, depicted annoying. I think they might do that, or filmmakers might do that, so their audience doesn't feel as uncomfortable or bad when they're watching someone get brutally killed because, oh, they were pissing me off earlier in the movie anyways. But here, you know, they're not pissing me off. They're just like regular people who don't deserve to be in the situation. Unfortunately, they're in the situation, and it is what it is. So, really, for me, negatives, there's nothing that's substantial enough to really count against it. I think the movie's really, really well done. So, the positives. This, basically everything. I mean, it's a short-ish movie that does not overstay its welcome. It's paced extremely well, especially for 1974 standards. It's extremely influential, arguably more influential than Halloween. Actually, I can't really say that because Halloween was bigger, right? Okay, Halloween was probably more influential, but this one was the true godfather of low-budget horror. So, yeah, and it's just proof that this is the right way to make movies. I mean, we're seeing stuff today, like, think about Snow White and the Moana live-action stuff. We're seeing these, like, grossly over-budgeted movies not making back their money. And that's just the wrong way to do things. And I honestly think, whatever that quote is, I forget how you say it, the whole constraint breeds creativity or whatever, I think it's absolutely true, and I think this movie is living proof of that. The actual style of the film is the best part of the movie to me. So unfortunately, I did not get the graininess that I was used to, but I still got everything else. It's very gritty, it's realistic, and it's unforgiving. And what I mean by unforgiving is it's not trying to spare your feelings as a viewer. It is simply a harsh reality happening in front of you. This movie is a very realistic depiction of what would happen if you were in this situation. It's not fun. There's no jokes being made. It is just people running for their lives and usually not being able to get away with it because that's just the way it is. You could argue the most unbelievable thing about this is the fact that all these Texans don't have firearms on them, but again, that's just nerd stuff. I don't care to think about that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. But yeah, I just think, oh, the light's going out now. Oh well, I'm almost done here. So yeah, the actual like chase scenes are extremely well done. They are, again, not sparing your feelings. They're uncomfortable. And that's the whole point of the movie. The vibe and aesthetic of it is just, how uncomfortable can I make the viewer right now? And a lot of that creepiness is depicted through the sets. So when you get to the main family house later on, which is the best part of the movie, the final act is the best part of the movie, despite the screaming, actually that's one more negative I could have said, is the screaming gets annoying. But it's not actually a negative, because obviously she's going to be screaming in this situation. I would be screaming in that situation too. So again, not a problem at all, I'm just being a nerd again. So, yeah, there's no real negatives with the movie at all. I think it's basically handling everything perfectly, and it knows not to overstay its welcome, and it's just the right amount of sauce, for lack of a better word. But I was going to say before I cut myself off was the sets. So there's literally furniture made of human bones, and there is like human faces that are peeled off, covered over lamps, like light bulbs. Like, that is where the true, that's the thing. This movie isn't necessarily super scary, by today's standards especially, but it is very uncomfortable and it's very unnerving. And you have a lot of anxiety watching it because it's a movie, you know that the terms of engagement are a little bit different from the average movie. This is not something where X character is going to automatically survive Y situation from Z villain because whatever reason there may be. This is something where anything's possible. There's no rules at hand. There's no kind of, tiptoeing or worrying about offending anyone. It's just simply pure homicide. And honestly, it got so crazy towards the end that I had to turn down the volume because I don't want anyone to hear me. Because I usually leave my window open because it's just so hot in here all the time. So I had to turn my volume down just a pinch so that nobody thought I don't know what they would think. But yeah, the movie is very vocal, to say the least. So, yeah, and I feel like I'm missing more. I mean, just the fact that the movie, most of the scenes do not have music. It's just silence and terror. Just the way it should be. It's perfect. And I like the family members as well. Because Leatherface is obviously the star here. He's great. He's excellent. But the family members also hold their own. Hitchhiker, great performance, great character. Grandpa, I have no idea what's going on with him, but I'm intrigued. I have no idea how old he's supposed to be or if he's immortal or something. And you also have the cook, who, again, great performance. Honestly, first time I watched this movie, I didn't expect that twist with him as well. So, yeah, just amazing. Love it. And I think this movie's underrated and underappreciated. The last thing I want to say about this is not a positive or negative, just something I want to talk about before I forget. Just to play devil's advocate, even though the whole point of this movie is to be extremely gritty and unforgiving and unsanitary and unsanitized, I would argue the movie is still making compromises. Because so to play devil's advocate, I feel this movie is actually a little bit tame. I know it's crazy to say, but I actually think the movie's a little bit tame at times. Not always. You have a scene like when Grandpa's trying to hit Sally over the head with a hammer. That's not tame at all. But there are other scenes where certain things are tame, especially when it comes to the chainsaw. You're not getting a graphic display of what the chainsaw is doing most of the time. It's usually like off screen. So I think this movie probably could have been way more extreme than it was, and I think it probably was doing some halfway measures and compromises just to not offend or grossly upset the audience even more than it already will. Plus the fact that maybe some theaters wouldn't even be willing to show this if it was too much, and it's like bordering on too much at times. So yeah, my point is, yes, it's realistic, yes, it's down to earth and super gritty and grounded, but I think it could have been a lot worse. And frankly, if this situation happened in real life, it would have been a lot worse. And I hate to say that, but that's the truth. It would have been 10 times worse if it happened in real life. But I'm glad it wasn't, because I don't necessarily watch movies to get traumatized, and I think it's just the right amount of, extremity to be interesting and unique, but not so much as to completely just ruin your day, make you unable to sleep at night. It's because that would ruin the enjoyment factor if it was too much. Think of Human Centipede. Human Centipede, it's a little too much, and it's kind of hard to enjoy that movie because of how off-putting it is. But that's not the case with this one. I'm gonna give The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which interestingly I think is the only movie in the entire franchise that has chainsaw separately. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. I think it deserves it. This movie absolutely does not have a 10 out of 10 score on critic rating sites, and I think that is just a common theme when it comes to horror. I think the critics are usually wrong about horror, and they can be more correct about other things. So, I mean, the IMDb score for the sequel to this movie is a 5. And I love the sequel to this movie. I think it's amazing. So, yeah, I can't wait to gas up the sequel as well. And, but I won't be gassing up the Netflix remake so much. I know, I told you I haven't completed the series, and that's very true, I haven't. But I have seen bits and pieces of it here and there. So, thank you so much for watching this review. Please check out this movie if you can stomach it and you can handle how uncomfortable it is. And it's a very fun time if you know what to expect and you're not too uptight, I guess. I can't imagine watching this as some, super uptight person that gets easily offended. You're definitely not. This won't be for you. So thank you for watching this review, and I will see you next time.